Hi, I'm Andrew, and this is my fantastical journey through books. So this is my YouTube channel where I'll be looking at fantasy, science fiction, and sometimes horror and lit RPG. So today, since this is my first YouTube video, I decided I was going to do the BookTube Newbie Tag. So I have a series of questions I'll be running through just so you can get a little bit of who I am and what this channel might be about. So the first question is, why did I start this channel? And really the number one is community. I have been watching BookTube since 2021. I actually got to it a little bit later. A lot of people's stories about coming back to reading are about the pandemic and how that got them back into reading. But for me, the pandemic was video games, and way too many video games, specifically League of Legends. And by December of 2020, I felt really burned out on video games. And so I decided, you know what, let's go back to an old love that I hadn't done for a while, and that was reading. And so I picked up Well of Ascension, which was, I had already, read the first Mistborn book. And after picking that up and starting to read, I just kept going. And now in 2024, I've crushed all my numbers from the years past and have decided, this is the year that I'm going to start BookTube. It also gives me a chance to really gush about books. There's not a lot of people in my life that are really as much into fantasy and science fiction books as I am. I have a couple of friends who will read some of the same books, and I'll talk about them. But there's no one who really will dive deep into the books. And I figured, why not start a YouTube channel and really talk about books with hopefully other people? Because my number one reason for starting this is community. And I want to get, not just a part of the comment section or the Patreon or Discord of other people, but actually have my own voice into the YouTube space. And then finally is FOMO. I see so many people making BookTube channels. I'm in a Discord from Andrew Watson, shout out to him, and these people who are making these BookTube channels, and I want in on that fun. I have this fear of missing out on all the fun of a BookTube channel, so why not dive in and actually do it? The next question is, what are some fun and unique things that you can bring to BookTube? And this is actually my hardest question to answer because I don't know if I actually bring anything beyond there's only just one me to BookTube. I have some unique perspectives and maybe some ideas for some cool videos down the road, but not many. And so my uniqueness is kind of just who I am. I am a dad of a young toddler, and an old dad at that. I'm 39 years old. She's 2.5. I'm a history teacher for 9th grade in the United States, and I'm an avid gamer pretty much across the board. With tabletop wargaming like Warhammer 40,000, I've dabbled in Magic the Gathering. I play many different TTRPGs, starting with Dungeons and Dragons, but many others as well. I have some board games, and I play many video games, especially fantasy RPGs. So I figured those perspectives could be unique that no other people give to a BookTube channel, or at least like I said, there's only one me. But I think it's the hardest question because there's so much I could do, but I can't think of anything right now. So my next question then for this video is, what are you most excited for about the new channel? And number one is the community. It's the reason why I got into doing this other than just talking about books. And I cannot wait to get my voice out there and hopefully get people in the comments and we can really talk about books. It's why I want this channel to do as well as I hope it can. I also see it as a piece of creativity where I can get my ideas down and do unique things maybe in the future, or give my spin on things that other people are doing. We all have top 5s, top 10s, tier rankings. Well, you can get my perspective on that, and I can try to see if I can add some creativity. And then I'm excited for the fun that it's going to bring, where I can sit down here and talk about books and just kind of get my thoughts out, and hopefully other people chime in and either agree or disagree or add to the conversation. So I'm really excited for that. All right, the next question for this newbie tag is, why do you love reading? And the number one is for the great stories. I said earlier in the video that this is mostly going to be fantasy, science fiction, and a bit of horror. And I just love everything that the fantasy genre especially brings. Great characters, world building, magic systems, all of it leading to fantastic stories to be told. But beyond that, I also think that you can learn a lot from a really well-crafted story. For whether it's philosophy or it's about another culture, because that was what influenced the book, different perspectives and point of views of people that I normally would not have in my life. I can kind of see that, and then artist journeys as they work through their readings, and see just how these stories unfold. And finally, there's also the idea of getting inspiration for the TTRPGs I talked about before. So if I'm looking, reading a book and there's a fantastic character, there's an NPC if I'm running a game, or a possible character that I can play. If there's conflict in a story, I can tweak it and modify it and make it for my players if I'm running a game. So there's a lot of things I can mine from the books that I'm reading. So entertainment, something to learn, and then something to be inspired by. So the next question up is, what book or series got you into reading? And reading in general would probably be from my parents that would buy me like the golden books or small books as I was growing up. But as my own independent reader, the first kind of book series or book itself that really sparks my memory of this is the first thing I can remember is The Chronicles of Narnia, and specifically The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It is one of those early reads where I really started to love the fantasy world that it started to develop, and my love of fantasy kind of, I think, starts from there, at least when it comes to books. I've been watching fantasy movies and television shows well before that. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, as you can tell, and I kind of consider that science fantasy, but for my book, it would probably be Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. I also, however, consumed heavily the Goosebumps series as I started to get even older, and I'm surprised I'm not as big of a horror reader as I am because of how much I loved those Goosebumps books. When it comes to adult fantasy, though, I know a lot of people on BookTube, as Brandon Sanderson got them into adult literature, or adult fantasy. Not me. It's your classic Lord of the Rings. But on top of that, with Lord of the Rings from J.R.R. Tolkien, it was the Dragonlance Chronicles by Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman. I was a big D&D fan, and they're D&D books. So I grabbed the first one, loved the book, read the whole series, and that kind of spurred on other fantasies as well. The next question then is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? And I have a couple here, though a lot of the booktubers that I watch, I already talk with a lot on Andrew Watson's Discord, or I talk with in the comments sections of their own videos. But I kind of have three ones that I would want to ask that relate to how I think my channel might go. The first one is, how do you believe content, schedule, and real life can be balanced? And a part of this has to do with the fact that I am a teacher and I'm a dad of a toddler. So I think that as this is a hobby and I'm not trying to break out and become a huge channel, at least not right now, that's in the back of my mind that I may have to sacrifice some of the channel, and being a hobby, it probably should, for my career and for my family. So is there a good way to actually balance that, where I cannot have to worry about getting content out, but also taking care of my other responsibilities? The other thing then is, can you do this as an occasional hobby, which kind of goes along with my previous question. Can I, when grading gets tough or the quarter's about to end and it's crunch time at work, take a couple of weeks off? Can I do only one upload a week or one every other week and still kind of keep a community going, or is my channel going to kind of be forgotten? Now, seeing as this is a hobby and one of my goals for the channel is just to gush about books, I'm completely fine with kind of yelling into the wind at nobody there. But I do want to be part of that community. So I'm kind of hoping that I can keep this going, even maybe if it is only occasionally. And then the last question that I have is, what's the best way, or what is the way to get involved with other channels? Because I know with BookTube, I see a lot of people going on other people's live streams or holding their own and having guests come in. Is there a process to that? Do you reach out to them, or do you wait for them to reach out to you because you've kind of quote unquote made it and now you get to be on some live streams going forward? Because like I said, community is a big part of this and I want to add my voice. So that's one of the things that I'm excited about. I watch those live streams and go, man, can I one day get to be a guest on one of those, or maybe hold one myself in the way distant future and get those people onto my channel? So that would be my third question. All right, our next question up. What challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will be the hardest for you to overcome? And it's previewed in my questions to my favorite BookTubers. And that's really the idea of a consistent schedule, because I have a busy life being a teacher. Now, in the summertime, it would be a little less of a problem because I have such free time over the summer. But during the year, there are these peaks that teachers go through, especially in high school, where there is, you've been teaching for a while, and now there's a test or project, and I've got to grade 130 plus tests that I might not be able to have time that week or two to really get down and upload a video to. So that's probably my biggest challenge, is the consistency of trying to get, my hope is one video a week, but there might be weeks where I have nothing uploaded at all. And then the other challenge comes from the fact that I am not that fast of a reader. And so my stack of what I've read so far is very, very low. Usually it takes me 3 to 4 weeks to finish a typical length fantasy novel, which is about 500 plus pages. So, a Stormlight Archive book will take me 2 months to get finished. And so I see a lot of booktubers who will be able to do weekly wrap-ups or recaps, and they'll have like a stack of 4 books that they've finished that week, plus the next one that they're going to be reading that week or so. That would be a good month for me to have 4 books stacked out for a month. Now, one of the things I do plan on kind of doing probably is a monthly wrap-up, but with the amount of books I read, that monthly wrap-up could be 2 books. It could be the book that I, read on audio, the book that I sight read, and then talking about what's coming next. Definitely not able to do weekly. And then maybe like a mid-month update just to talk about how I think the book that I'm reading is going. But I do think that, like how other channels are, the speed that I read and the number that I finish in a month being so low, I'm a little worried that my channel might be flat with not being able to talk a lot about current books I'm reading. I'll be able to go back to my backlog because I've got many over the last 3 years that I've read. But if something is new and hot, it's going to take me a while to get to it, possibly months, because I already have other books I want to get to before I get to that new one. So my reading speed, I feel, may hold me back a little bit compared to other BookTube channels. Now, the next question is, when did you start reading? And I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but being read to is where I got started. My parents would buy me board books or those golden books. In fact, my mom routinely tells me a story that whenever we would go to the grocery store, if I would be good, my treat would be a golden book that she would let me pick out. And that really fostered a love of reading in me. And then as I got older and started reading my own books, I mentioned Narnia, but there's others. And I know that it goes back to around 9 years old. I actually started playing D&D, which is very young. And I think I was playing with friends' parents and my friends, and I'm sure it was a pared down kids version. This isn't real D&D, but we felt like it was real D&D. And that is what kind of got me into wanting to read more and read fantasy, because I loved the stories that we were telling at the dining room table during D&D time and wanting to read them. I mentioned how it's inspiration even now for my own D&D games. So I remember reading very, very young, loving reading, being tied to it through my parents, and then the love of fantasy actually coming from my friends and their parents, getting me introduced to D&D and fantasy and like all of the literature that would come with it. And the next question then is, where do you read? And surprisingly, it's not mostly in this chair in my office. Actually, most of my reading is done on my living room couch. I tried not to read in bed much. I did a little bit before in the past, but I would always fall asleep. And that's a big struggle for me, is that if I'm very tired, I can fall asleep very easily. So doing it in bed before, I go to sleep, it's just going to zonk me out. I'll get half a page in and it's time to end it. So the couch is really where I get a lot of my reading done, especially if it's a physical book. Now, if it's an ebook, then I tend to try and read everywhere. If I'm in line at the grocery store and waiting, if I'm at the doctor's office in the waiting room, if I have a little bit of time, I'll try to read on the ebook. It's a little bit more cumbersome to bring a physical book, especially if you're reading something the size of a Stormlight Archive book that you really need a big bag to fit it in if you're traveling around. But I would try to, I really try not to doom scroll much on my phone. So having an ebook around keeps me from doing that. The most online content that I consume a lot is long form YouTube videos, hence why I'm kind of starting this channel. I don't have TikTok at all. I sometimes will look at Instagram Reels or Facebook Reels or just kind of scroll through Instagram and Facebook. But I very quickly try to catch myself and say, no, don't do that. Go to your book if I have one. And then I also do audiobooks. I try to have a physical book that I'm sight reading and an audiobook that I'm listening to at all times. I know a lot of people like to have the same book on audio and physical and they can get through them quicker, but I feel like I can get these two experiences that are different and then end up finishing the book at the same time, which is why I have about 2 books a month, my sight reading book and my audio book. And that I'll listen to whenever I'm doing chores or if I'm on my commute, because I have a 40-minute commute up and then 40 minutes back if I'm not carpooling. Or if I have some downtime, I will sometimes just sit and listen. And that's actually something maybe I don't need to start adding in. It's just, hey, I'm tired. I know if I try to sight read, I'll fall asleep, but I can throw some headphones on and listen to a book and just kind of relax, and I won't fall asleep, hopefully, during then. And I've only really done that once or twice where I've just kind of relaxed and listened to a book, and it was because it was near the end and it was super exciting and I wanted to finish it, which was actually Dungeon Crawler Carl 5, the Butcher's Masquerade this year, where the first time I ever actually kind of just said, you know what, I'm just going to just listen to a book. I very rarely do that, but I will get it in kind of nibbles here and there when I'm doing chores or waiting in line or commuting to work. And that usually takes me then about 3 to 4 weeks to finish a book, since I'm not really diving deep into listening to it much. Okay, and the last question then is, what kind of books do you like to read? And this really goes into the heart of what this channel is going to be about. And the number one is, if you haven't guessed yet, fantasy. I like epic fantasy, I like urban fantasy, I like low magic, high magic, hard magic systems, soft magic systems. If it's fantasy, I will consume it, or at least try to, at my snail's pace of a reading speed. But I love all things fantasy. My favorite book series is the Stormlight Archive, and I am super excited for book 5 coming up in December at the end of this year. But I am a Sanderson super fan and love all his work. In fact, last year when he did his secret projects, I did a year of Sanderson, which I just read his entire backlog. Got all the Cosmere that I hadn't already read done, and went and read even his side stuff, like the Reckoner series and some of the Skyward books that he didn't read, that he wrote, and consumed pretty much everything except for like 1 or 2 smaller stories. Like I don't think I read Snapshot. But I love Sanderson and fantasy. I'm also a big Dresden fan, as you can see up here. I'm currently reading Cold Days, which is book 14 in that, and I'm almost done. I'm in the last 25-30% of that book. But this channel is going to be heavily fantasy. I also love science fiction, and that is my kind of second one, especially if it's more science fantasy or if it's a space opera. I started reading the Sun Eater series this year, and I'm loving it. Huge Star Wars fan, so if I can get some novels in, then now I think Legends or Expanded Universe, or whatever they're calling it now, that's not canon for that. And then some newer genres that have kind of piqued my interest in the last few years is horror. I got a little bit specifically during spooky season, though not a lot otherwise outside of the fall, especially October. And the newest one is Lit RPG, specifically Dungeon Crawler Carl, which I absolutely adore. And I'm hoping to actually dive deeper into more Lit RPG. And I am very thankful for BellTube, who put out his Lit RPG Beginner's Starter's Guide video, which gave a lot of ideas of books I want to try to read. And that's it. That is my newbie tag and the first video for this channel, and hopefully many, many more. I have some ideas for a couple of videos that'll hopefully be popping up in the next few weeks, even a special tag that hopefully you'll find interesting. It's my profession, teacher related. But before I go, I do want to do a number of shout outs. Now, the whole reason that I got this going, like I said, is community. And if it wasn't for the communities that I'm in, I don't think I would have pushed myself to do this. So the first shout out is to Andrew Watson. He has a YouTube channel by the same name and a Discord. And I decided this year I was going to go join it. And I met some fantastic people and fellow booktubers in there. So thank you so much, Andrew, for putting out that Discord and connecting me with so many fantastic people. I'll try to link as many as I can think of down below, but some people that come to mind: Sam Harrison, he has a YouTube channel; Hardy's Books with Laura and Ross; Campbell reads; Lady Mair reads; Reading with Rebecca Nicole; and some newer channels like Charlie and HopelessAllomantic. These are some people who, like I said, I'll link down below, who really pushed me to say, you know what, don't just say you're going to do it, but actually do it. And then outside of Andrew Watson's Discord, I also want to give a shout out and a thank you to Talking Story, John and Jacob. I was part of the last, I think it's 3 Town Square videos, and have been part of his, comment section and Patreon. And the two of them have been really pushing me to go beyond just the 2-minute Town Square videos and start this channel. So hopefully next time there's a Town Square on John's channel, he can actually say, hey, he's got a YouTube channel started. You might want to go check it out. So thank you, John and Jacob, also for pushing me to go do this. So that's it. This is my fantastical journey through books, where I'll talk about fantasy, science fiction, some horror, and some lit RPG over the coming years and months, and we'll see where this goes. Thank you for watching. Bye. Oh, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I think I'm supposed to say that, right? In every video?